Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you've got any questions you would like to ask during this session, please put them in the comments box below or hashtag QBATE on Twitter. That's hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you have any more advice that you need after this session, please join the official Intuit Quickbooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. QuickBooks have also got a dedicated COVID-19 information site. Just go to the QuickBooks website, scroll down a little bit, click on the big Learn More button under the section Support for your business and you during COVID-19. So the way this session is going to work is that you're going to ask questions and they're going to be fed through to me to answer. Before we get onto the questions, I'm just going to spend a few minutes discussing who I am and the firm that I work for. So some of you will have seen as you're waiting for it to start, my name is Judith Dugdale. I'm a chartered accountant. I work for MHA Moore and Smalley and I head up their digital solutions team. I joined Moore and Smalley after completing an accounting and finance degree at Hull University and started on their graduate trainee programme soon after. In fact, this year will be my 20th year at Moore and Smalley, so I am hoping that the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted fairly soon so that I can enjoy that anniversary with my colleagues in the office. So who are Moore and Smalley? So we're a large independent firm from the northwest of England, established 128 years ago, so we've got lots of experience. Our offices run from Kendal in the high in the northwest in Cumbria, and then we kind of go all the way down the M6 junction to Liverpool, going through Lancaster, Blackpool, Preston and Southport. We also have a Manchester office and a Nottingham office in the East Midlands. Moore and Smalley, like many large firms, has set up separate departments so that our staff can become true experts in the areas that we work in. We have a corporate finance team that deal with buying and selling of businesses and accessing funding. We have a special tax team that covers anything from personal tax through to corporate tax, trust planning, and they've also got a dedicated VAT department within there. We have a financial planning team, and they deal with investment and pensions advice for our corporate and personal clients. And we have a very, very busy payroll team at the moment. We do over 900 payrolls normally. And obviously at the moment, not only are they running those normal payrolls, they're having to calculate the furlough wages as well as then doing furlough claims. In fact, at the moment, we've just had to add an extra 15 members of staff through into that team to help with just the furlough claims themselves. The biggest department by far is our corporate department. And that corporate department deals with anything from small traders all the way up to large businesses. We do annual accounts, VAT returns, bookkeeping, management accounts, management information, as well as large audits. Again, this corporate team is split into areas of specialism. So we have people who specialise in construction, hospitality and leisure, charities, not-for-profits, professional practices, and a very large medical team. And that leads on to my team. We are a dedicated digital solutions team, and we mainly deal with small businesses, anywhere from sort of 10, £20,000 turnover startups, all the way through to our biggest client that we deal with turns over £6-7 million a year. What they all have in common is that they're all on cloud accounting software. And the reason we have a separate team for this is that we acknowledge that those clients need separate support and need people on hand 24/7 to help them with their business needs. So my team are office-based or currently working from home based. And that means that we're there to take calls and inquiries as they happen. People aren't out the office on audits and unattainable. In my team, we have 11 people now. We started back in 2015 with just myself and a little bit of support from the wider corporate team. And we've grown to having over 1,000 QuickBooks clients now. We aligned ourselves with QuickBooks back in 2015 because we felt that their mission and their values were the same as ours, and that was to deliver the highest level of client service. We have 2 dedicated software support managers within our team who not only help devise what's the best system through app stacks. So that's different apps linking into QuickBooks to enhance your bookkeeping software and systems, all the way through to our compliance team who are dealing with annual accounts, VAT returns, doing management information reviews and business advisory as well. Very, very lucky at Moore and Smalley that we've got a really good IT team behind us, and the firm has invested strongly in our IT equipment. So when we all came into the COVID-19 lockdown, we were all able to seamlessly move to working from home, effectively offering a virtual office to our clients. I would actually say in the current climate, we're communicating more with our clients, not less. We're having many more conversations. And because internally we've used Microsoft Teams a lot more, and as well we have a Starleaf video conferencing system, we are able to communicate with our clients really well. And we're offering that video conferencing with them. So instead of just communicating over emails that we might have done 6-7 weeks ago, we're actually just picking up the phone via video conferencing and having really good conversations with our clients. So what are we doing at the moment? As you could imagine, an awful lot of it is surrounding COVID-19, making sure our clients know what funding is available, be that through the business interruption loan, through the grants based on your rates, the furlough system as well, but also looking at VAT deferments, personal tax deferments, corporation tax times to pay, all manner of things. And this has been a tough time for accountants in a way, because we've had to really upskill very, very quickly to be able to offer that support to our clients. But the good thing is that we've also been able to really use our business advisory skills that sometimes we don't necessarily get the chance to use all the time. So at the moment with my clients, I am talking to them about how to get through the pandemic at the moment, what systems they need in place, how to manage the cash flow while they're shut or indeed open. Quite a few of my clients are still open and trading. And that includes things like furloughing their staff and making sure that they're communicating with suppliers and customers. But we're also looking at the post-pandemic now as well. We obviously don't know when that's going to end. We don't know when lockdown's going to ease. But what we're doing is we're creating scenarios with clients now, and then we're updating them on a weekly basis, sometimes even daily basis, as new information is fed through to us from the government. I'm going to move on shortly to answer some of your questions that are coming through. But before I do, I just wanted to mention how important communication is at the moment. I really, really advise any small business out there to communicate with your advisor, be that your accountant, your bank manager, your solicitor, maybe HR team. We're there to help you. No small business has ever been through anything like this, but we can help. So please make use of our expertise and the research that we're doing on behalf of all of you. Also, communicate with your suppliers and your customers. If you're open, great. You may be able to continue to trade and offer payment terms as you normally would. If you're shut, you may be struggling to meet some of those supplier payments. Don't just shut up and ignore all correspondence from them. Engage with those suppliers and explain when you hope you may be able to make payment. Likewise with your customers, speak to them about getting payment through from them as quickly as you can, but don't force the issue too hard, because if they're struggling, you need them coming back afterwards. So maybe agree that they can pay you over a period of time. And finally, the most important area is to communicate with your staff. Some of you businesses will be open, and that's fine. It's almost business as normal for your staff. Some of you will be completely shut and have had to furlough all your staff. And then there'll be some of you who are in between, where you're not open to full capacity, and therefore have had to furlough some staff. With that, please make sure you explain why some people have been furloughed and some haven't. People can feel a bit undervalued if they've been furloughed while some of their colleagues haven't. And likewise, some colleagues can even feel a bit aggrieved that they're still working while their colleagues are furloughed on 80% pay. So it's important to keep communicating with them. And I would say, even though your staff can't work for you once they're furloughed, you can still involve them in regular communications. And I would advise that you do that to keep them ready and raring to go when this lockdown ends and we're all back at work. So now I'm going to get on with the main part of today, and I'm going to start taking some questions. So What I've got a question through from Hermie from Twitter direct message. And the question there is, I furloughed everyone, including myself. Would this be a good time to retrain as an accountant? Well, it's a very good question. It depends what you do now, I would say. Accountants train for a very long time. As I said at the start of my session, I went to university for 3 years. I got a degree, and then I trained for a further 3 years to become a chartered accountant. You don't necessarily have to go down that route, but people expect you to have qualifications if you're advising them on things like tax and their accounts. So it's never a bad time to retrain as an accountant. They're always needed. It's just bearing in mind that it takes a significant amount of time to retrain as one. Maybe have a look at what other schools you've got as well, and have a chat with career advisors, look online to see what other things are out there. But yeah, if you're interested, your first port of call would be to either look at the AAT profession, which is a way into becoming a chartered accountant, or look at degrees, which is your second route in. Got another question through from Chris from Twitter. He's put, as I understood from furlough, you get 80% of your salary up to £2,500. Is that for all cases? I think a lot of people will be furloughed at my company, and my salary is much higher than what the government would give. Does this mean I have to take a massive pay cut? Would I qualify for anything else to secure a higher monthly salary? Okay, Chris, so yes, you're correct. The government will refund 80% of salaries for furloughed employees up to a maximum of £2,500 per month. Now, some businesses will top that up. So, for example, if you say you're on a much higher salary than that, and 80% would have been far greater than 2,500, your employer may choose to top that up. They just can't claim that back from the government. Unfortunately, there isn't really anything else open to you at the moment to top up from the 2,500 that you would get through to what you currently receive now. So I think it's a case of having a chat with your employer and see whether they're planning on topping up those wages or not. Darren from Twitter's been on. His question is that I am thinking of hiring a 17-year-old to help around my office, maybe 7 to 10 hours a week. Do I get her to sign for payments and leave it at that? Would it be better to put her on a 0 hours contract? I'm a sole trader, and in these uncertain times, I can't afford an accountant. First of all, on the point about not affording an accountant, I think it's really important at these times to not just see what possible costs there could be, but the benefits. So they can help you with questions like this, which you maybe wouldn't get support from any other way. You might make a mistake. Also, at the moment, most accountants are offering really flexible services in terms of payment plans. And you can get accountants now and get them on a retainer for quite a small amount per month. If you look on QuickBooks Find an Accountant, I know there's hundreds and hundreds out there, and I'm sure in this time people will be happy to help in whichever way they can without giving you a massive bill. In terms of your actual question, in terms of whether you put them on a 0 hour contract, whether you get them to sign for payments, it's up to you whether it's a 0 hour contract. That leaves you open to upping or reducing hours, and you're not obliged to give a set amount of money each month. However, you have to put them through payroll, irrelevant of how many hours. So you do need to do that officially. If you're a sole trader and you don't have any other employees already, then you need to set up a pay-as-you-earn scheme. There is no support like the furloughed job retention scheme if they're actually working. So you just need to bear that in mind, that you will have to cover all that cost yourself. Okay, so next question that's come through. It's come through from Bukchan. Apologies if I've pronounced that incorrectly. That's from Facebook Messenger. He's asking, am I better off hiring a large accounting firm rather than a small one? Would I still get the same level of attention? I guess the issue here is it's down to the firm that you choose. Many large accounting firms offer just as much attention as a small one, and vice versa. Some small firms offer really detailed one-to-one. I think the really, really important thing is to look at a few different options. So maybe go through the Pro Advisor directory on QuickBooks and have a look at a few in your area, and maybe have meetings with some small ones and some large ones, and get a feel for how you interact with those people. Because ultimately, your accountant needs to be trusted by you, and so there needs to be an element of a rapport built between you. So I always suggest when people come to see me about taking us on as accountants, I always recommend that they meet another accountant as well, and make sure they feel 100% comfortable with who they are. Small firms of accountants are fantastic. We all go through the same initial training as everybody that's in a large firm. The difference with a large accounting firm is that they will have additional support services in-house, like we do at Moore and Smalley, which means as you get bigger or you decide to sell or something explodes, then we can help you internally, as opposed to having to recommend somebody else out there in the field. Fernley from Twitter has sent in a question. They've asked, do you think it's better to use Teams over Zoom? Do you use a procurement process to select? So we use Teams because we're heavily invested with Microsoft. We use Microsoft Outlook, Microsoft OneNote. So the Teams is built into the suite of offerings from Microsoft, which is why we've gone with that. In terms of procurement process, Moore and Smalley are part of the MHA Association, which is a large independent association across the country and Scotland, with like-minded firms of accountants like ourselves. And we tend to share expertise, including IT. So somebody will have tried Zoom and they'll have tried Teams, and they'll have suggested which one works best in practice. And we tend to all then follow that lead. Teams, we've been using it probably for over a year now, although we've never used it quite as much as we're using it now, and I do highly recommend it. I use actually Zoom with a lot of software providers. A lot of app companies use Zoom, and again, that seems to work perfectly as well. So I can't say that one is better than the other. I've used both, and they both seem to be very good. Looking at another question I've got from Aaron Patrick on Facebook. He says, hi Judith, great advice so far, so thank you for that. He's asked, as a practice owner, any advice on keeping staff in the loop with all the recent changes? And yes, Aaron, I can help you there. Again, I'm very, very lucky to work at a firm like Moore and Smalley, where we're really into employee engagement. We have a intranet system which we set up probably about 9 months ago now, and luckily that has got an app that all our employees can download onto their phone. So even the ones that are furloughed, that aren't logging on every day, they can still access any updates on that app. It's really good, actually. We don't necessarily just put technical things on there. Our managing partner puts regular updates on what's happening within the firm, how things are progressing, and we also put on there more fun things like quizzes and mental health support as well, which I think is really important, because some people are at home with a big, large support team. Other people are at home and they're alone, and it's a big difference to being in an office 9 till 5 with lots and lots of people. So we've got lots of support on the mental health side as well. So yeah, I think if you can't necessarily have an intranet system like we have, then emailing through updates and just keep chatting with them. We use Teams to have a call once a week, and that call includes all furloughed and non-furloughed staff, so that everybody has a chance to say hello, and we keep that quite informal. Got a message from Lucy on Facebook. Hi Judith, I feel like many businesses are struggling now. So I think it might be so many businesses are struggling now, myself included. What is your advice from an accountant perspective to think about to come out of this stronger? So this is a really, really good question. You're right, Lucy, you're not alone. There are lots and lots of businesses really struggling out there now. I'm having conversations with clients that 6 weeks ago, they thought, actually, we're going to be okay, we'll get through this fine. And then having a conversation with them last week where possibly paid some of their suppliers a bit too quickly. Their customers that they're expecting to receive payments from have disappeared, and they're not receiving any payments from them. So yeah, they're struggling a little bit more now. So our conversations with those people are around looking at cash flow, simple cash flow projections, nothing too complicated, looking at what money they honestly think they could get through, and then also looking at all their costs. And then we're approaching all those costs that they have to see how we could delay some of those payments. There's obviously the government have already put in place the VAT deferment, which is fantastic. So you just don't pay your VAT bill between now and 30th of June. And then you will have to repay that before the 31st of March. There is also HMRC time to pay hotline, so you can speak to them about other taxes. So I've got a number of clients that were struggling in particular hospitality and leisure to pay as you earn, because obviously their February payroll was absolutely fine and as normal, and they've got a big bill on the top, on the back of that, that now they're shut, get no income. You've had to pay a number of their suppliers anyway. So we've spoken to HMRC on their behalf, and we've managed to get pay-as-you-earn time-to-pay agreements to spread the money that's due over a period of time, and that's really helped. Again, corporation tax. If you've got corporation tax bill due soon, HMRC will happily do a time-to-pay agreement. And then it's things like, if that's not enough, is looking at the COVID business interruption loan scheme. I know initially it was really hard for people to access finance easily, and it was very slow. However, I think now it's an awful lot more speedy. I myself have had quite a few clients that have been accepted and had loans set up, and the payments already been received. And as a firm, we've had quite a lot. The good thing is, if you're wanting to borrow less than 250,000, you don't need any personal guarantees. The government are underwriting 80% of those. And the government have really tried to push banks to be more flexible and to release some of those funding quickly. Just a note on that is just make sure you've got everything ready, all your ducks in a row, so to speak. They will need your last set of financial statements, and they need to be fairly recent. If they're more than 6 months old, they're going to want you to get those up to date. They will want some up-to-date management information so they can see up until, say, COVID-19 hits, how's the business doing. And then they'll want some simple cash flow projections to show how your business is going to be affected over the next sort of 3 to 4 months. If you can get all that information in place, and you're a viable business, i.e. you've been making profits beforehand, and once all this ends, you expect the sales to come back through, then you should find no problem in getting that support. It's where you don't have that information that people are struggling to access funding. And finally, on that point, if you are turned down by your bank, and I would always suggest that you go to your existing bank at the moment, there are many, many more providers out there, including recently Funding Circle have come online. So that's quite good for people who maybe their bank isn't in the CIBL scheme. Funding Circle will accept applications for anyone because they obviously don't have normal business current accounts. The next question has come through from Grain from Twitter. Do you look after ECRM and CRM software for retail? What would you recommend right now as your go-to package? To be honest, Grain, it depends on which area of retail you are. There are so many pieces of software out there, so many apps that are linking into QuickBooks Online, that to recommend one without really knowing what area of retail you're in, because you could be an online retailer, I'd recommend something different to maybe a clothes store or a food shop. So really, without knowing exactly what type of retail sector you're in, I can't necessarily recommend somewhere. What I would say is if you go on the QuickBooks App Store, you will see many, many apps there, and they've all got reviews attached to them. And again, don't forget to use the find an accountant area, find an advisor area on QuickBooks, and then you can ping questions like this to them, and they can have a look at what they recommend for their current client base. But we do really need to know what area of retail that you're in to answer that more specifically. I've had a question from Saeed from Facebook. Hi Judith, I've made 3 of my employees furloughed. My question is, if I can't bring everybody back, how do I decide who to keep on and who to lay off? 2 of my employees are doing the same similar jobs. At this point, I feel it is needed to move forward, but I can't see cash flow to go back how it was in the near future. So this is a question I get asked quite a lot, actually, from our clients. So a lot of my small business clients maybe only have like 3 or 4 employees, many just under 10. And it's quite hard if you're still open to decide which employees to fill and which not. And likewise, if you are shut, it's quite hard to decide when you're going to bring people back. You don't need to bring everybody back at one point, and that's the first thing I would say. So as lockdown finishes and we start to slowly go back to normal, bring people back in piecemeal. In terms of who do you decide to keep on and who not, that's really a question for you to decide based on skill set, who is probably the best person for the job. And I guess I wouldn't necessarily make the decision that I can't bring them back now, so I need to lay them off, as in make them redundant. Hopefully, the job retention scheme will carry on a little bit after lockdown is lifted, so there'll be that ability to bring people back slowly, so we don't have to make people redundant. But ultimately, it will have to come back to an assessment of who is best at their job and communicating that with your clients. We're coming towards the end of the questions now. Just got time for a couple more, hopefully. So I will just go to Florence from Twitter. I received a grant, which I'm very grateful for. I'm very careful what I spend the money on to keep my business going, but I'm wondering what happens next. As we don't know how long this will go on for and the future is very uncertain, what if businesses use their grant? Is there a plan B? Well, at the moment, the government have not given us any more information about a plan B. Depending on what sector you're in, you may be able to get rates relief for the year. Obviously, hospitality, retail and leisure have got rates holidays now, so they don't have to pay rates in the current year. If you're not in those sectors, I have noticed when I've been appealing for a number of clients on the grants themselves, I've seen on council websites that there is an area to appeal for a rates holiday or a rates reduction based on you struggling through COVID-19. So I'd have a look at that and see if that can help you at all. And then, yeah, the other option is looking at the COVID business interruption loan scheme if you're running out of cash. Okay, so just look at the last question, and this is from Stephen on Twitter. He's registered as self-employed and a landlord of a few commercial properties. Due to COVID-19, all of my rents have stopped. What can I do? Can the government or city council cover this, either the rents or a grant, or are my tenants bound to pay for rent for their grants? Appreciate any advice on this. So no, in short, the government and the city council aren't going to cover the lack of rent that's being paid. Legally, your tenants do need to pay you. However, obviously there's rules been put in place so you can't evict people during this pandemic, but they do need to come to a payment plan with you. So I would suggest speaking to them and seeing if there's any way at all that you can get some money out of them, even if it's not the full amount, and then put a plan in place that once they're back to work, that they will repay the rent that they've missed. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the session now. I'd like to introduce the next expert, who is on tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m, and that is Michelle Flynn, and she's a certified health coach. I'd like to also remind you that if you need any more advice, to join the official Intuit Quickbooks SMB community group on Facebook, where experts, business experts and accountants are on hand 24/7. I really hope that you've found this session useful and that you've managed to get something out of it. I would like to thank you all for listening and taking the time to put questions through. If there's anything more you would like from me, then please do not hesitate to get in touch with me direct. My email address is judith.dugdale@moreandsmalley.co.uk. And if you'd like to find more about my firm, please visit our website, www.moreandsmalley.co.uk. And there is on there a big COVID-19 hub that we update daily. So please take a look at that. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you all stay safe. Thank you.